Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Um, I have some bookshelves. Is anyone else excited? I am so excited. Pretty much the minute I finish filming this, I am going to be filling them. There's three, one you can't see over there. And I can finally, after years of wanting to do this, I can take all of my books that are currently hidden upstairs in the spare room. I can take them down and finally have them in my living room. I can't wait, guys. I am so excited. I might do I might do a wee bookshelf tour afterwards if folk are interested in that. We'll see. I haven't quite figured out how exactly I'm going to arrange things yet. It will very much be on the go. Um, Probably alphabetized because that's what I always do, but I don't know. We'll see if we'll reshuffle things up a little bit. But yeah, anyway, what's today's video? Today is my October wrap up. You probably figured that out from the title. Yeah, October was a really good reading month, surprisingly. If you see me looking down, it's because my laptop is sitting right underneath my phone. And I'm on my Storygraph, and I thought I'd only read like maybe 3 or 4 books this month. Yeah, apparently I read 8. 8. I don't know how that happened. So let's just go through them one by one, shall we? So the first one I read was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This was one. You know, if you're scrolling through like Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you come up with like it comes up with all like the suggested ads, you might enjoy this title. This was one that just kept coming up. It's a contemporary fantasy romance, but a lot more on the contemporary side. It was a really good. It was actually an appropriate Halloweeny kind of autumny read. Yeah, I bought this and downloaded it onto my Kindle because I read the synopsis and was like, this sounds so terrible. I need to know just how terrible this is. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The premise is it's basically about a girl who can see ghosts. Um, she's also a ghostwriter. Yeah, it's a thing. Um, and she basically has a terrible meeting with her new editor, and then tragedy strikes at home. So she goes back to the small town that she grew up in, and suddenly the dead editor is there as well because yeah, he just died, and romance blooms from there. I mean, that synopsis, right? You're like, that sounds so terrible. I was very much at like I've got to know just how awful this is, and actually, the author made it work. Um, by about 30% way through, I was like, oh, okay, right, I see where we're going, right, I understand, I get it, I know exactly what's going to happen. It followed almost all like the typical Hallmark tropes, but it was just such a really cute, lovely, cozy read. And it was brilliant. Yeah, if you want like a nice autumnal, slight post Halloweeny, I guess, because it does involve ghosts, read. This one was, yeah, this was like the biggest surprise of my reading, like the biggest reading surprise I've had in a while. I was genuinely shocked at how much I enjoyed this one. I think I read it in a couple of sittings, and yeah, I flew through it. It's a dead easy read. I recommend. To be fair, I don't think there are any books this month I probably don't recommend. I think, like thinking over it, I've enjoyed pretty much everything I've read this month. But yeah, the next one I read was We Novella. It was only 140 pages and it was called His Quiet Agent. It's the first book in the Agency series by Ada Maria Soto. And it is basically about two secret agents who they're the secret agents who have like desk jobs. One of them has possibly also got a bit of field work, and it's just their really slow, quiet romance. Um, but one of the biggest sort of like selling points for me was that it's an asexual romance. Um, it's a romance. The one of the like the romantic interest. He's asexual, and he's not neurotypical. Is it atypical, neurodivergent? I'm really sorry. I know the term and it is it's escaping my mind right now. Um, and it is just these two men slowly getting to know each other and figuring out what they mean to each other. Our main lead is oblivious at times. He thinks they're just friends for quite a while. He's like, oh no, like no, 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 I'm not dating him. No, no, we're just friends. Like seriously, you take him lunch and everything. He's literally making him lunch every day. But yeah, it was really cute. It was really sweet. I really liked the way it ended. There is a sequel, and I'm not sure if I want to read it because it is. I really liked where it ended. It didn't end in a way that I expect more from it. I liked it as its own contained thing. Um, but yeah, it was one of the first romances I've read with an asexual character, which I absolutely adored. Um, it's really nice to see more representation coming out that way. But yeah, the next book I read was Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This was last month's last month's Fairy Loot, I think. Um, it is. Oh, how to describe Belladonna? Belladonna is about this young girl. I'm not entirely sure what time period it's set in, but so I want to say like maybe around about turn of the century ish. It's not clear on that at all, but it's basically about this. I say young girl, this young woman. She is approaching the time to debut. So I mean, it might be more Regency. I don't know. It's a slight criticism I have, where it's like I really couldn't place the time period. But yeah, she is of an age to think about getting ready to debut. She is an orphan. She has been, but she's a wealthy, like she's an heiress. She has been passed from relative to relative to relative because their guardians keep dying. It's just that simple. Her guardians keep dying on her. She herself cannot die. She has tried several methods. She's not suicidal, but she's experimented, going like, how far does this go? Um, every time she comes close to dying, or every time like she dies and then doesn't, death appears. And this is basically at its heart. This is a romance between our main character and Death himself. Um, very early on in the book, we she ends up with um another set of relatives. Oh, words have become hard, guys. Words are becoming hard. But yeah, she ends up with another set of relatives, and slowly they're kind of dying off. She arrives just after the wife has died, her aunt, and her cousin, one of her cousins, is really gravely ill, and it's sort of like it becomes a murder mystery trying to figure out like what's happening, who done it, who's behind it. At times I really, really enjoyed the mystery. Uh, Sometimes there were times that I wanted to scream at it, being like, you're overlooking this very obvious plot point here, like this thing. Turned out that thing I was pointing to was not what I thought it was. Was valid, like definitely needed to be looked at, but didn't quite go the way I thought it was going to, which I did find interesting. A good solid debut. Did enjoy it. I think I gave it 3.5 stars because there were bits where I'm like, can you just like, it just didn't quite work. Like some bits really worked and some bits really didn't. I've just given this a really terrible explanation, a really terrible description, and I can't see anyone like jumping out their seats to go and get this on my description. But yeah, it's definitely worth a try. There is a sequel coming out. Unlike his Quiet Agent, I am interested in reading the sequel to this one. I'm curious to see if it's either the sequel can potentially go two ways. She's either going to make this like almost like a, what's the bookish word for episodic? Can't remember. I don't know. Does that word exist? But yeah, it could almost be like a different mystery each book, or it could be a continuation of a plot and have like a longer overarching plot. I don't know if this is going to be a series or a duology. I'm gonna wait and see. I think I'd be quite happy with it going either way. But yeah, we'll wait and see. So I wasn't massively blown away with this one, but it was still a decent, solid read. Okay, the next two, because they are books 2 and books 3 consecutively, I read them back to back. That is Scum Villain Self-Saving System, volumes 2 and volumes 3 by MXTX. what can I say? I absolutely adore MXTX now. um, I've now read everything that has been published in English by in the Grandmaster series, and now that's everything in the Scum Villain. And I am now very, very, very impatiently waiting Volume 4 of Scum Villain, which has been published, but there has been massive delays with the publisher. Many people are still waiting on Volume 4. These are absolutely brilliant. They basically take our main character, Shen Yuan. The basic premise is these is that he is in the real world. He has been reading this great big long stallion novel, which is basically in this world it's a novel where you've got a male protagonist and a huge harem of characters, a huge harem. Um, and he's basically been hate reading this, giving out massive comments and everything, writing essays about how terrible it is. He finishes it, and then I think essentially in his anger he chokes on it like a crisp or a potato chip or whatever, um, and dies. And then he wakes up in the world of the Stallion novel as a major antagonist. So the whole point of this is him doing everything he can to kind of save his life, and he figures the best way to do that is to ingratiate himself to the Stallion novel's protagonist, which is Luabinga. Um, in the original novel, the the original antagonist, Shen Qingqiu, is killed by Luabinga because of how terribly he's treated it. So he goes out of his way to try and sort of like um, mitigate all of that. It's hilarious in the first volume because you have to see him try to keep in character whilst also not being in character. It's absolutely brilliant. Obviously, it becomes a romance between Shen Qingqiu, well, Shen Yuan, who is now Shen Qingqiu, and Luabinga, and it's absolutely brilliant. I will say, MXTX is a big fan of dubious consent. It Now bear in mind, I know exactly how this is going to sound. It kind of works in Scum Villain because she takes the humor within it is brilliant, and she takes um a lot of the more terrible tropes and pitfalls of fan fiction and plays with them, and she is very obviously playing with them. She knows exactly what she's doing. It is essentially a parody of fan fiction at times, um, which is just I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen someone play with their work and with tropes the way she has in Scum Villain. It's the least raved about of her works, but it's definitely underrated. It needs more love. It does need more love. Personally, it's never going to be my favorite. I am Grandmaster all the way, but Scum Villain definitely deserves more love than it's getting. Um, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop raving about these and move on. Hey folks, editing Amy here. Basically, what I was trying to say before I went off on that slight tangent is that yeah, MXTX really enjoys dubious consent. It's definitely like I've seen it within a couple of her books now, but she really does kind of push the boundary of uncomfortable in this one, in one particular scene. So if that is something that you just is not okay with you, I would still recommend reading these, but skip that scene, please. Um, yeah, I that was like the limit of my like. I'm not comfortable reading this. Um, yeah, just be aware of that. The next one that I finished, so I'd actually started this one in September, and I listened to it on audio, and that's Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. So I finally finished it this month. I loved it, guys. I freaking loved it. This was so cute. It was so lovely. It's a standalone. It is about essentially. I don't even know how to describe this. How do I describe Warbreaker? It's it's kind of following two sisters. Um, They are from like a mountain country who basically like years and years and years ago their country was essentially taken over by an empire. I can't remember exactly the names of the countries as it is right now. And these two sisters are from the original royal line. A treaty was made to prevent or to stop war essentially, where one of the daughters from the royal line had to then go and marry the God King, who is now ruling the original country. Um, and the older sister has been prepped for this all her life, and then right at the last minute, father decides to send the younger sister, who's completely unprepared, she's like skipped all of her politics lessons and everything. So Siri, our younger sister, goes off and marries the God King, and Vivenna, I think her name is left behind going, what, what, what? Vivenna then follows shortly after follows Siri, and is sort of like with the intention of essentially rescuing her, but she gets caught up in rebellion, um, and like we don't know who to trust, and we're following like from both sides. We're following for me like these were my favorite parts. We were following the two sisters, trying to one figure out what's going on, like who do they trust, and figure out what they need to do to prevent war and bloodshed. Um, the magic system, I mean, we all rave about Brandon Sanderson's magic system, so I'm not going to say too much because it's Brandon Sanderson. It's amazing. I'd not seen anything like this. It was so brilliantly described. I loved it. I loved all the characters in this. I mean, it's an easy 5 stars. Absolutely adored it. Yet, that's all I got to say now. the next one, um, the next one, I think this is possibly the next two. They're between the two of them. They are my favorite reads this month. Um, I honestly, it flips back and forth. Like I'm thinking about it. I'm going, oh, maybe it's that one, maybe it's that one. They're up there. I love them both. So the next one I read was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I think Roska had mentioned it, the Midnight Reader, had mentioned it in her snack book tag, which I will be doing soon. Heads up. And I mean, the way she described it, I was like, this book sounds amazing. Why have I not heard about this book? Right? So, Fangirl is basically about this girl who she's a twin. The two twins, like, they both go off to college, but her twin wants some independence. They've done everything to do, they've everything all their life they've done together. So, kind of understandably, the twin wants independence, but that leaves our main character going, I don't know what to do. She's very introverted. Ultimately, she doesn't really want to be at college because that's scary and terrifying. And all she wants to do is hide herself away from the world and sit and write Simon Snow fanfiction. She doesn't want to go out and make new friends and meet new people, and that's too scary. I so I related so hard to our main character, whose name annoyingly is eluding me right now. um, I was that. I still am super geeky and introverted, but like it was. I felt like I was reading. Like this could have been me when I first went to uni. Um, I I was terrified of meeting new people and making new friends. Have like so much of the time, I did just want to go back to my dorm, back to my room, and read fanfiction and write a bit of fanfiction. It wasn't Simon Snow because Simon Snow is a made-up world within Fangirl, but for me it was Harry Potter. At the time, it was Harry Potter, right? So I fully understood it. I got it. I love the way that Rainbow Rowell, she addresses so many different themes within it. Theme of like individuality and finding yourself and family trauma. It's absolutely brilliant. At one point, oh, it's really annoying me. Oh, Cather, because the twins are Cather and Catherine. because their mum wasn't. They were only expecting, like, they weren't. The second one was unexpected. They weren't, like, they thought, they didn't realize they were having twins. They'd already picked out a name and didn't want to go to the bother of picking out a second name, so they literally just split the name. Okay, fine, whatever. But at one point, Cather is forcibly befriended by her roommate, and as I'm a lot better now. I make my own friends. Like, none of my friends had to like force me to be their friends, or like was like, I'm fairly certain they don't, they do still feel the need to take care of me, but I'm fairly certain not quite to the same extent. Um, I feel like I chose them as well. It wasn't just, it was a two-way street, no longer just a one-way street. But yeah, at one point her flatmate does just be like, I can't take this anymore. You're pathetic. You need someone to look after you. We're friends now. Deal with it. I had similar experiences. My flatmates, when I was in my first year of uni, were just like, you're a little weird. You're ridiculously quiet and shy. You're our friend now. Um, yeah, it's just how it works, isn't it? There is this the universal thing where I think extroverts feel this need to, just bring us introverts out of our shell. And sometimes it's really annoying, but sometimes we need it. That's not an easy thing to admit. So, yeah, I think what I absolutely loved about this is just how much I related to Cather. And just all the characters felt so real and so lovely and so sweet. And it was an absolute joy to read. Um, my one little criticism is I probably didn't need as many excerpts from Simon Snow throughout it, or from the fanfiction that Cather was writing, because I was far too invested in her story. I don't care about the other stories. I want to know more about Cather and what's happening in her life. Um, that said, I do currently have a reservation request out at my library for Carry On by the same author, which is, I think, the major fanfic that Cather writes throughout this book. Yeah, but anyway, the next once I finished that, I was like, oh my god, I absolutely love this. I need to go and read more by this author. So yeah, I've put in a request for Carry On. But my local library also happened to have a copy of Eleanor and Park, which was Rainbow Rowell's debut novel, and it's absolutely brilliant. I I gave it 5 stars. And not only did I give it 5 stars, I did something that I very, very rarely do, and I actually wrote up a review on Storygraph because it was absolutely brilliant. Um, I, despite how much I loved Fangirl, I was not prepared for how much I was going to fall in love with Eleanor and Park. I rarely root for first loves. I rarely root for high school sweethearts and teen romance because I'm like, it's your first love. Get over yourselves. You are too young to really know what this is. But my god, I was rooting for these two so badly. So badly. They were perfect together. They were endgame, guys. They're endgame. Yeah. Eleanor and Park, I want to say, like, I don't know what to say about it, but I literally wrote words and words and words. It was not a small review I wrote. But yeah, every character, not just the main characters, felt real and felt like someone that you could be living next door to. Um, at the heart, it is basically, so Eleanor is the new girl in school, um, and she dresses kind of funny and almost like gypsy, lots of secondhand clothes, and yeah, even though she's doing her best not to stand out, just the way she is, the way she acts, the way she dresses, she can't help but stand out. Park is Eleanor at the start of the book frequently refers to him as the weird Asian kid, the stupid Asian kid. And yeah, they basically they meet on the bus. They refuse to even speak to each other or look at each other to begin with. It's like very much like the fact that they have to sit next to each other is a is a thing. But eventually she starts reading his comics over his shoulder. He starts lending her them. They start exchanging music, and it just forms such a beautiful, innocent, lovely romance that is, guys, I can't describe how lovely it is. But throughout the background of this romance, we are seeing what's happening with their families. We are seeing, you know, what happens when you've got parental pressures and when you don't conform to what your parents want for you. Um, Parents always want the best for us, but when we don't quite fit this idea that they had in their head of what their child was going to be like, um, it addresses some of that difficulties, and on top of that, we it addresses poverty, um, child abuse, sexual abuse and harassment of minors. Um, there's nothing explicit, nothing actually happens, but it's still addressed. And it was interesting. She never once made it feel preachy or moralistic. She just made it feel so real. I'm like halfway through the book, I'm screaming, like, I need to get you out of this situation. How do we get you out of this situation? Because this is so awful and terrible. And at the same time, I know so many people are going through this right now. She didn't sugarcoat it. But she just did such a fantastic job. I feel like everybody should read this book. It is absolutely brilliant. I don't know. I'll see if I can link my review down below because I think I said it a lot more eloquently in there and I don't want to just read it verbatim. So I'll see if I can link my review below and it'll be so much better. But yeah, I think it's very, very safe to say that Rainbow Rowell she's become an all-time, like a brand new favorite author. I'm not necessarily going to say all-time favorite because there is a lot of recency bias going on here. But I am really excited to just continue reading more that she comes out with. So like I say, I've got Carry On reserved. Well, I've put in a request for it, so I'm just waiting for that to come through. The Joys of Living in the Highlands of Scotland, even if I live in Inverness, which is the capital, if the book is in one of the outliers, like I think the copy that I've ordered is coming from the Portree Library, which is out by Skye, which is a couple of hours away. Our libraries don't have deliveries like every day between each other, so we do sometimes have to wait a little bit. But yeah, then after that, I'm gonna just scour. I think she's done a few more like kids books or like more middle grade ones, which I'm not sure if I want to pick up because I don't read a lot, if any, middle grade. I tend to like I do read a fair amount of YA, but that's kind of where I draw my line. Not so much that I draw the line and I refuse to read it. It's just that I'm not that interested in middle grade. But yeah, pretty much anything else YA and above that Rainbow Rowell decides to take out, I am there for. I am so there for. Yeah. Anyway, that was my October. A really good reading month, full of lots of romance. um, and yeah, a lot more read than I thought I had, which is bizarre. Oh, October's been an up and down month. It's been a weird month. Yeah. Anyway, next time you see a video from me, these bookshelves will at the very least be partially filled. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later. Bye bye.